Here we go, Kinesiology 223. This is chapter 12, still talking about psychological skills training, presentation number 2. And in this presentation, this area of the book talks and speaks to why professionals might neglect psychological skills training. And many times it comes down to 3 main areas, but I think, you can push back on that and you can find some ways to retool your skill set, if you will, to be able to have psychological skills training be a part of your programming for your athletes or your clients. So the 3 main areas they list are lack of knowledge, there's kind of misunderstandings within the process itself, and then lack of time. So let's jump into these. Within the lack of knowledge area, they really don't understand per se like how to teach psychological skills. I don't have a degree in psychology, but I've coached a bunch and I've worked with I don't know how many thousands of athletes and how many thousands of clients in personal training over my career. And you get to have a body of work where you get to know people and you kind of get better at being able to hit the right buttons to leverage people, to motivate them, and knowing when you can step on the gas with one person versus the other, and more accurately, how to step on the gas versus the other. But I will tell you this, I think this becomes a concept and a conversation, a scope of practice. A coach knows how to coach football or softball or basketball, but a coach might not be skilled, per se in psychological skills training. You might have a case where you'll have a coach who has the best of intentions, but they really don't have the knowledge or the ability to effectively deliver the right cues at the right time, the right way. And many times it's done as a way to solve a problem after the problem has happened, as opposed to fixing the issue or having a culture of psychological skills training built into the coaching model as you actually work with your athletes. So, you look at this and you go, okay, they're talking in terms of things that might be a limiting factor, and like education might be one of them. You might have a case where, your coaches just might not understand how to use, relaxation tools or concentration models. And, there's a bit of a communication gap, if you will. And let's face it, if you go to Google Scholar, like I said in a previous presentation, and you go and research this information, when you bring it up, it's like, holy cow, that's like alphabet soup in terms of like some of the things they're writing about. And you have to really work hard at parsing through the information. And quite frankly, when coaches, they're worried about recruiting, they're worried about their athletes, they're worried about the athlete's GPA, who's going to be eligible, who's not going to be eligible. They're talking about game planning, maybe coming up with their schedule for next year. Psychological skills training kind of takes a back seat, if you will, and you don't have coaches who really spend time on it because they're so focused on other things. But in some regards, you almost have to find time for it. And the challenge that you have is with, research. What they're saying here is, with mental training, it could be more user-friendly. You could have more hands-on and concrete examples for the coaches. You can have mental skills training resources, and they can also have coaches involved in mental skills and educational programs. So the book lists these 3 over here, and I think they're good, but I'd be willing to bet if you ask coaches, you'd probably find some other limiting factors as well, but they do a good job of just kind of encapsulating those. So misunderstandings about psychological skills, the idea that players either come into this world with psychological skills or they don't. I would say you have some people who have some hard wiring that allows them to be more receptive to psychological skills training, and people that might end up being a little bit more mentally tough, if you will, and more mentally resilient than others. Also depends upon environmental factors, how the person was raised, the environment where they were in. I had a roommate in college who had 3 brothers and they all played football. My roommate played football, and one of his brothers played at I think Western Kentucky. The other one played at Indiana, for God's sakes. And I went to their house one time and I saw their backyard, and their backyard didn't have any grass in it because they spent an entire lifetime growing up playing football and sports and probably just doing wrestling and maybe making up games where they beat the snot out of each other in their backyard. My point is, here you have a household where you had 4 boys living together and they were all very competitive. They all played at a high level in college, and their father was a iron worker. He worked in the steel mills over in Hammond, Indiana, and he was a tough dude as well. So, you can just imagine the culture of that household and how the environmental aspect help forge, if I could use a steel mill term, help forge the mental toughness that my roommate had. And he was a tough dude, man. He could run through a wall and get up and run through the next one. Didn't matter. You just point him in that direction, he'd do it. So my point is, I think part of it was he had this kind of mental toughness that he was gifted with when he was born, but because of his environment and growing up with three other brothers, two of them older, one younger, uh, you know, the environment also helped make him tougher as well. So to that end, I think that they're a case where the psychological skills can be learned and they can be developed. And I also think that there's a little bit of a trait bias as well, where some people are just born tougher than others. And that's kind of the way it is. That's not to say you can't become tougher or more mentally robust through training. It's just the fact that you might have a different starting off point than somebody else. They also talk about some of the misunderstandings with psychological skills further down, and they talk, beyond just this kind of nature nurture concept, and they talk about how, regular exercisers can use goal setting imagery, etc., to help them maintain a regular exercise program. I would contest that when you're a fitness professional and somebody comes in and they sit across from you and they tell you that they want to be in shape, it becomes a conversation of like, what shape do you want to be? Do you want to be square, circle, triangle? They want to be fit. Like, how do you mean fit? To them, they have a vision in their head, and until you help them kind of craft what that vision is, well, I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, great. When was the last time you weighed that, whatever weight that is? Well, it was when I was in high school. Okay, well, we need to actually set more realistic goals. I need to lose X amount of weight. It becomes a conversation of what is realistic in that context. And once you have a realistic goal for that person, that becomes the tipping point where you can now start talking about, well, here's what to expect in this process. You'll work out with me twice a week, and you'll need to come in probably 2 days on your own and do some workouts on your own. Thereafter, or I'm sorry, when we start off, we'll start off kind of slow and easy. We'll introduce you into working out and fitness. You'll be a little bit sore. That's just part of the process. Your muscles be a little bit achy. You haven't moved for a while. And then after the second week, we'll ramp up the intensity. Probably third week and fourth week, we'll do the same. I'll make some manipulations in there in terms of like reps and sets and the exercises we'll do, with the overarching goal that as we march you towards now what we understand to be your goal, my goal as a professional is to attack that process from any number of different angles, and also provide you a nice book of content that you can draw from in case you come in and work out on your own. That's a very robust conversation when you start talking about preparing your person to be successful, preparing your athlete or preparing your client to be successful. You're helping them formulate what in shape looks like. And then once you have that key part in place, you can then speak to the process of what it looks like to now switch from being outcome oriented, meaning what the shape looks like, and then you can be more process oriented with that person. Got it? So lack of time. They look at different reasons why you don't introduce in psychological skills training, and many times coaches will say it's just lack of time. And many times you'll have exercise people say, I can't do a fitness program because of lack of time. And sometimes it just comes down to the simple concept that they need to have better time management or a reprioritization of what is important in their lives. And if they're making the commitment to say, I want to be fit, then you know what? That's got to become a priority. And it becomes a priority. Instead of going home right after work, they come to the gym, or before they go to work, they come to see you, whatever that may be. So if you look at this and you go in the context of a coach or a trainer, if you do this systematically, you have psychological skills training. The whole process can be integrated into your coaching instruction with your athletes. You can basically, in a coached environment, just talk about some psychological skills training skills and implement those in maybe 5 minutes at a time, just kind of like a drip campaign like you'd see on social media. When you're talking with your clients, you can have a text message. That's a real easy way to motivate. You can have another drip campaign in terms of talking with your client about their workouts and holding them accountable to their workouts. But they'll say, well, I can't make it in because I'm held up at work, etc. Well, then, okay, how about another time? Instead of today at 5 o'clock, can you do tonight at 7? How will that work? Come on in, we'll get something done, we'll keep the momentum going. All right, not today, then how about tomorrow? All right, so you can offer ways to allow your clients to overcome that hurdle, or more accurately, you can find ways as a coach and a trainer to remove that hurdle. So what they're doing is they're putting in a limitation, a constraint into the process, and what you're trying to do is just eliminate that constraint from that person. Fine, not 5 o'clock today, how about 7 o'clock tomorrow? That's a real simple conversation to have. I'm going to break out from here and go into the next presentation. Same stuff. Bye.